Again. Okay. Okay, yeah, we're good. Thank you very much. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Town of Vesuvius Committee of the Whole meeting, May 14th, 2024 at 9 a.m. Council chambers. So first off would be the approval of the Committee of the Whole meeting, minutes of, that the agenda be approved for today. Thank you, Councillor King, Councillor Poderica, all in favor. Thank you. Now the adoption of some minutes from April the 23rd, 2024. Could we have a motion for that, please? Councillor Bennett, Councillor Chong, all in favor. Thank you. And this morning we have some petitions and delegations. And first up, I will ask Tucker McCord to come up to the microphone, please, and welcome Tucker. He has giving us a capstone presentation, which is what grade 12 students do. And he's going to a Skills Canada national competition. So
it'll just be 1 second.
Just wait till the microphone works so everybody can hear. Great.
Hello,
Welcome.
my name is Tucker McClure. I'm going to be talking about some electronics engineering stuff and the Skills Canada event I've been going to. Yeah.
Cool.
I'm just loading it right now for you, Tucker.
Okay.
Can you tell us where it is and when it is?
Yes, it is in Quebec City, the end of May. I'll be there, like, leaving May 27th, and I'll be coming back like June 2nd.
That's exciting.
The biggest thing I've been doing recently is electronics engineering. So this includes stuff like doing these breadboards. So those are breadboards, you can put electrical parts onto there. I've been learning about all kinds of these electrical components, how they work, and how to put them together to make them actually do stuff. So I've been learning how to do that. I've also been learning how to read and draw those schematic diagrams in that top right image. So that's basically a layout of all the electronic parts in a circuit. And I've been learning how to read those, know what they mean, and how to draw them in an understandable way. Another thing I've been doing is learning these digital designs of printed circuit boards. So I don't know how many of you have seen a circuit board, probably most of you. Basically, it's a board with a lot of electronics on it. I've been learning how to build those. Design them on computers and get them sent off to a manufacturer, and I've been able to design them in a way that I can send them to a manufacturer. The manufacturer understands what I'm telling them and actually is able to build it for me. And then circuit analysis, that's like using oscilloscopes and stuff to kind of look into a circuit deeper and know what it's doing. Just measuring stuff. Does this work? Oh. Okay. I've also been doing prototyping stuff. So that top image is a prototyping board. It just has a grid of holes in it. I've been learning how to build stuff on there, soldering to them, hand soldering, and yeah, that bottom image is the result of the final soldered assembled version of the design I showed previously. And then I've been learning programming. I'm gonna skip over a lot of this stuff because I didn't realize how short time I had, but yeah, I've been learning programming microcontrollers, so that's C++ code. There's a big project I did recently. I wrote over 2,500 lines of code to make it work. I've also done a bit of Python, but the biggest thing I've taken away from programming is learning to think about computer problems logically and make computers do what I want them to. I've also been learning how to manufacture things in plastic and sheet metal. So I've been learning how to do some sheet metal work in order to put this stuff together. That's my 3D printer. I'm able to make designs for it and print them out and use them to build stuff for my projects. I probably won't talk about that. So the event I'm going to is Skills Canada. I've gone to it twice, 2 years, this is my second year now, so. In 2023, I won gold in regionals and then silver in provincials, and then this year I've done gold in regionals and gold in provincials, which means I'm going to nationals in Quebec City. And then the big project I did recently that really combines all this stuff that I've been interested in is my modular synthesizer, which is like a synthesizer. It has a keyboard, plays music. What mine is all of the different parts of the synthesizer kind of split apart, so you can put them together one by one. And that basically makes it a lot more versatile. You can make a lot more different sounds with it. And it also means I can build it part by part and have each part work individually as well as all together. Also, these things have a big DIY community online, which I've been able to both learn from and contribute to. So this is a design I made of my synthesizer as a sheet metal project. So all of this stuff can be turned into flat layouts, and then I can cut them out using CNC plasma cutter and bend them and put it all together. The first part of the project I built was this thing. It's a sequencer. This one had a lot of programming, and most importantly on this one, I learned a lot about how the physical construction of these things would work. So, that's more whatever. Physical construction, like cutting out the sheet metal stuff, making it all look nice. I learned how to make those 3D printed button panels and how to wire it all together. This is my power supply. So this was a big one because if this doesn't work, nothing works. This powers everything. And I did look at power supplies other people have made before. Obviously, I've iterated on those. But what I've done with this one that a lot of people haven't done on these synthesizers is mine is fully protected against faults. So if there's a short circuit or something goes wrong, normally if something happens with the power supply, because everything is plugged into it, it can break a lot of stuff if something goes wrong. The way I built mine is I've designed that little circuit board on the right that's constantly monitoring all the voltages and stuff to make sure nothing goes wrong, and if it does, it shuts it all down safely before stuff gets broken. That was the rack I made to hold everything together. It's just CNC cut and then bended, bolted together. That was a big circuit I made on prototyping board. I was talking about that before.
Tucker, can I interrupt and ask you, can you explain what it is you're going to do in Ottawa? And can you use any of the things that you have built? I mean, sounds very interesting, but can you tell us what it is that you're going to do there and how we can help if possible? Thanks.
Okay. Well, in Quebec, there's 3 stages to the competition. There's breadboarding, which obviously I've gotten a lot of practice with doing this stuff. Then there's a circuit soldering section. So I'll be soldering circuit boards like these ones that I've soldered here. And then there's also a kind of theory part where I'll be probably reverse engineering a circuit board and drawing a schematic of it. So those are the 3 parts of the event in Quebec that I'll be doing.
And so how are you able to get there? Is this your money that you're using to get there? I understand that there was an ask of council, is that correct? Or do you
Yes.
know about that?
I think, well, kind of. I've been talking to my teacher that's taking me, Boyd Turnbull.
Yes.
Yeah, so he's taking me there. I think the school's paying for a lot of stuff. I'm not really sure about all that details.
Well, you know what? We wish you all the best in your competition. It sounds like you've got 2 gold medals already, so I'm sure you're gonna do well. Have you got a different project in mind to build there? Or do you take some of these with you and explain them?
So they want everyone to have a level playing field there. They don't want anyone to have an advantage, so I'll start with nothing there. And then they'll give me a project and I'll have to put it together as good as I can.
Great. Well, thank you. Council, does anybody have any questions? I think this is really interesting, and obviously your teacher's been very helpful, so we absolutely wish you the best when you're there. Please let us know how you do. You okay? Thank you so much, Tucker, and good luck.
Thank you. And then just to show you something physically, this is one of the pieces I built.
Good.
I designed this whole circuit board from scratch.
Well, I think it sounds like you're gonna do well. Are you going into electrical engineering next year? Is that your plan?
Not next year, but that is my plan eventually, that I want to do.
Thank you very much and good luck.
Thank you.
Okay. Next, we have, Mr. Marcelli, a waiver of photocopy fee fees, bylaw 1331.02 presentation. With that, Mr. Marcelli.
Good morning, Mayor McCorkle, Councillor. My name is Cy Marcelli, and I'm as a council watchdog past 33 plus years. You all had the chance to see the Town of Osoyoos Council Board Report AP 5060 dated February 27, 2007. On pages 173 of 214 pages to page 197 of 214 pages. This is proof it was not under the Freedom of Information Protection and Privacy Act. In 2008, Mr. B.R. was hired, everything changed. General Sunball Arena and net payroll account was reported without showing dollar amounts on page 42 of 175 pages dated June 7 to 10. Second time on August 16 to 10, it was repeat of June 7th on page 44 of 175 pages. I complained to Mayor Wells, please see page 3 of 21 pages about missing dollar amounts in regard of General Sunball Arena and net payroll. I told Mayor Wells that I will go to BC Ombudsman office. I was told by Mayor that dollar amounts will be back, which it did. Unfortunately, former CAO and present CAOs and last 2 months deliberately left Town of Osoyoos Council Board Report Summary AP 5060 under the Freedom of Information Act. In 2019, is the shovel was hired? Same old story, nothing changed. Now presently, same. AP 5060 should be public, just like Water District 8 and 9 financial accounts, and should be placed and shown in regular open council report for AP 57. In other words, general Sunball Arena cash requirements and net payroll accounts as of today, May 14. In my report on pages of my letter dated May 8, page 16 of 21 pages, finally after 14 years, Mr. Zakal did acknowledge, of course he did not confirm it, that AP 5060 is not covered by Freedom of Information. And on August 21st, 2023, by changing from Freedom of Information request for fee and charges as per Freedom of Information Act. That was still an request for information building as per bylaw 133102/2022. Mayor McCorkle and councillors, when it comes to photocopies of agenda, regular meeting of council, or this morning agenda committee of the whole council, it will cost me 50 cents for hold the pages 134 plus the other one. Total is 280 pages, which is under $40 plus tax. According to court case, Uric versus Ontario and rest of the provinces, page 10 of 21 page, Winston Young, Town of Osiris lawyers, law firm stated that of importance to local government in the URIC decision is simply to reminder that power to levy fees and charges is only authority to recover the costs and charges relating to the public service provided of the administration of that regulatory scheme. Well, Mayor McCortop, please, I want my money back. All this year, as a council watchdog, I did not act on behalf of myself. I did act on behalf of community. I am proud to say our community. I had through everything, I paid dearly, my family paid dearly. So that's why I want my money back, $210 plus no tax, no insurance, please.
Thank you very much, Mr. Maselli, for, you have brought these issues to council before, and we know that. I do tell you that there is a cost. It's not just the 50 cents a page that sounds rather outrageous, but, it's the time that staff has to deal with it. It's making sure that the machine works and the paper and all of the things required. We do offer 2 ways for you to get the information. One of them is on the computer, and you can get that, and that is available to anyone. And the other is that for printed documents, there is usually a copy, certainly of the budget and of the annual report. It is at Town Hall at the front desk, and it is certainly available for people to come in and look at, not take, because there's of course, a huge cost for that. So we do appreciate your concerns, but I do not think that we're going to be able to pay back you the money. That was your choice to have those done. We understand your concern and the fact that you are helping other people and, but the council watchdog is your title for yourself. It's not something that anyone else has given you. We do appreciate all the work that you do on behalf of the citizens. Certainly, this is not a decision-making meeting, and we will look at your ask, but thank you very much for coming.
Mayor McCortop, respectfully, I disagree when you stated that cost town employees and so on. As of today, in other words, on May 14th, on Friday, you as a mayor and councillor, all you had information, everything is in the computer, and nothing to do with the extra labor. It's just punch of the button, everything comes. So that's why. And the last one, I just had in my files, 2017, I was given by Mr. Zakkal budget for $10 plus tax, which I didn't know, and that was a fair cost, not 160 whatever it is. So for that, I'm just going to leave it for each of you information of this $10.50.
Thank you very much. Okay, this is Robin. Thank you very much.
Have a good day.
Yes, you too. Okay, next on our agenda, we have a presentation with Sergeant Beta. Would you like to sit? You can certainly sit there if you want to. Oh. Should we use that one? Okay. That over the way. Could we move the stand over and just over to the side so that everybody can see? Thank you, Sergeant Beta, for coming and talking to us. We did send this in the mail, or an email, a week or two ago. So please go ahead. We appreciate your coming to give us the info.
Thank you, Mayor and Council, for having me here today. So we're going to be talking about the first order stats for their policing in Osoyoos. That goes from January, February, March. So we don't always show you every single stat, but we show you what the primary things that people are most concerned about. And we start off with violent crime. So in Q1, we had 7 what we call assaults. Now you'll notice that they're listed as common or assault with weapon or assault causing bodily harm. I can tell you all 7 of those were common assault, so none of them included assault causing harm or assault with a weapon. Most of these were, in fact, 3 of them were involved the same people, and the others all involve people that know each other. So it's not no stranger assaults or like that. Violent crime total in general is down over Q1 compared to Q1 of 2023, so that's a plus. Where we see some changes that concerning to me are property crime. So the whole entire South Okanagan has seen an increase in property crime recently, and primarily stolen vehicles. We've seen a lot of F-350s, F-350s, and other vehicles, but primarily larger pickup trucks that are commercially made. They don't have the same immobilizers on because dealers make them as fleet vehicles, but they also make the same truck as a vehicle that anyone may buy as for personal use. So they're easier to steal, they're also large, and they're usable to the criminals to commit other crimes. And that's where we come down to breaking after others and theft others. So we have the people coming to town or other towns in South Okanagan, stealing a vehicle, stealing a vehicle and then traveling to another town, in this case, for our stats, coming to Osoyoos and stealing a utility trailer with these tools. We're finding the trucks and utility trailers abandoned and on the outskirts of town with many of the tools gone. So again, stealing a truck from one place, driving to another town, stealing a trailer with tools, and then taking what they can and being them. So what I really encourage people to do is I like to educate people on protect themselves from being victims of crime. So if you have if you're parking your vehicle anywhere, whether it's at home or not, start looking at things like the tool they call the club for putting on your steering wheel, or an aftermarket immobilizer if your vehicle doesn't have them. If you're a contractor and you have a work site, please do not leave your trailer and tools on site. I know it's the easy thing to do. It's easy to get back to work and in the morning set everything up a lot quicker if your tools are already there. Take them home with you, or take them to a fence compound or somewhere where they can be secured a lot better. It's the day we're in right now, where we've got criminals out there that drugs are doing a lot of it, and they don't do anything to get property or money to supply their habits. So that's really what we're seeing in town, and again throughout the whole South Okanagan. When it comes to the stolen vehicles, I can tell you that recently one of our vehicles that was stolen in town here was recovered in Oliver, and we were able to make an arrest on that one. And that person he's in jail right now, and we have a court date for that. On Sunday, one of my officers had a call for a suspicious vehicle down on 87th Street. She was able to pull up type of vehicles nose into the lake, or just before the lake. She was able to get tight behind it, recognizing that something just wasn't right. There was 2 people passed out in it, and we're finding that a lot of the people that are passing out in vehicles are the people that are, using drugs and committing crimes, and so she used her intuition and got as tight as she could to the vehicle, which thankfully she did. She was able to get identities, or able to identify people from her previous knowledge of them, and driver immediately basically backed up and reversed into her. Thankfully, she was so tight to him that he was unable to push much force against her. So she was okay. Our police vehicle did receive some damage. He continued to pull forward, reverse, continuing striking the police vehicle, and then was able to drive forward and basically into the water and back out and flee. a person that's gonna ram our police vehicle, and there's no regard for safety of our officers, of course, we're not able to chase them like that, we really do not want to put the public at risk. And, cause that person's gonna, no doubt, have zero regard for the public, so. The fact that they're identified now is good, and we'll have warrants open them soon and charges coming, and hopefully we can get those people in jail. We, yesterday, had two vehicles, we covered two vehicles up in Alden Road area. And, both those vehicles were stolen, one from Penticton, one from Oliver. So again, we're seeing vehicles being stolen in all areas and traveling to other areas for crime, so. In that case, again, we had a civilian who was able to take pictures of the people involved in that before they fled. And, so we'll be looking at charges for those ones as well, so we're making progress, but it's certainly not what, I think people need to be vigilant for, just make sure that they're paying attention to property and securing as best they can. So, any questions?
Thank you very much. Sergeant Beta also spoke at the regional district the other day, along with the superintendent and all of the area managers. And it was quite interesting to hear what all of the different areas are looking at. Some of them have more. Penticton has a lot of bicycle theft. And George Bush, Area Director, said that was because you have bike lanes up there, which we had a good laugh at. But so I did ask, Sergeant Beta at the time, do we have any, are there a lot of bikes and scooters that are stolen? And he said, no, not in Osoyoos, that doesn't seem to be the case.
Yeah, certainly not at this time,
Yeah.
as we're reaching the warm weather and summer months, so we could see a slight increase in that as people are using their bikes a little more often and leaving them out in places
Yeah.
that are more visible, so that's something to be, just keep an eye on your property, keep it locked. It's not 1970 or 1980 where we could keep our doors open and all our property out in front yards.
You're right, and leave the keys in the ignition. There's lots, we used to do that a lot of times too. Go ahead, Councillor John.
Thank you. Quick question. So I have GPS trackers on almost every home. If, let's say my car were to be stolen and I provide you with that tracking data, could you use that to recover the vehicle or assist you in investigations and things like that?
That's an excellent question, and it's something, again, I promote any type of thing to help us or help you protect the property. GPS devices are excellent for helping recover the property or helping us be able to learn the location of that and perhaps get someone that's in it, especially if it's traveling, right? But, air tags are another thing that the person put, they're inexpensive. The issue with an air tag is it has to be near a cellular Apple cell phone. So if it's taken out in the backcountry or somewhere there's no cell service, it's going to be useless to you. So the GPS tags for GPS systems are much better.
Councillor Bennett.
Thank you. Sergeant, if in the case where you talk about where the lady took her vehicle and pulled right up by the other vehicle to stop it, and then they start crashing back and forth, what happens, is there insurance because it's during a crime and the car is smashing going back and forth, is that, are they covered for that? Is that kind of?
So you're asking that the vehicle, if it was stolen vehicle, if the owner of that vehicle is covered?
No, the person that come on and block the car in. So if I was coming down the street and I seen a crime in an alley and I park behind that person,
And you block
instead
it.
of blocking them off.
I would ask people, the public, not to do that. The reason being is, again, these people are sometimes desperate to support their ways. And in many stolen vehicles or many stops, we found firearms. And these people are going into places and stealing people's property, and firearms are some of the things they're stealing. So I would really discourage the public to get involved. I'd rather you call us. Yeah, we want the public to tell us about things, and we want them to, this incident that where officer was struck by the vehicle, or police vehicle was struck. That would call from the public of something suspicious. Two people pass on the vehicle. And that's gonna lead to charges. So that call alone is helping us, but we certainly would not. Like the public to go up and approach the people.
So photos are a lot better option.
Voters are a lot better options, and again, take it at a distance where you're not putting yourself in harm's way.
Thank you. Are there any other questions of Sergeant Beta? Well, we thank you very much for coming and reporting to us every couple of months, because it allows the public online to hear what you have to say as well. So, thank you very much, and we look forward to a calm summer.
Yes.
Usually it's a little busier than the first 3 months of the year, so thank you. And do we have a full complement of staff?
So we're down one member right now. We have a compulsory officer retired after serving up to 20 years in the police here.
Mhm.
And so we do have a vacancy. And we can't pull that right away. We will be bringing officers in on overtime when we can to fill some vacancies.
When there's large events and so on in town. Great, thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
Well, okay. So next on our agenda is the zoning bylaw review, foreshore and lake zoning bylaw. Oh, and so we don't have Christopher today, we have Ben. Sorry, Ben, I forgot your last name. Ben Kent, that's right, sorry, and Shannon Long. Okay, so you're going to explain this lake zoning bylaw change to us? Go ahead, thank you.
Okay, so the first item we have for you today is a review of the foreshore and lake zoning bylaw, and this is coming out of the zoning bylaw. The background on this bylaw was adopted in April 2013, and at the time, the stated purpose of the bylaw was myriad, notably protecting the environment, protecting the safety of water users, some ancillary benefits regarding the use of public lands, promoting the aesthetic appeal of the town and strengthening the town's enforcement powers. At the time, council was further advised that the foreshore was under intense pressure from sometimes conflicting multi-water users, and also given the environmental value of this lakeshore habitat. Staff recommended to council at the time that due to these conflicts, that water zoning would be an effective resource management tool. So as a result, the lakeshore bylaw was adopted, and it applies to the first 100 meters from the foreshore within the town's boundary. Notably, this bylaw is enabled by the same regulations that enable the town's regular zoning bylaw, i.e. Part 14, Division 5 of the Local Government Act, which means that the regulations under this foreshore zoning bylaw regulate uses of land, structures, buildings, the density of those uses in areas of the town, as well as the siting, size, and dimension of those uses in different locations in the town. So you can see the map there. Shows in blue the areas that are subject to these regulations. Separately, around the same time, the town entered into a set of licenses of occupation with the province. Where that there was some question as to the relationship between these licenses of occupation and this foreshore bylaw. They are entirely unrelated. They just happen to apply within the same area in certain parts of the town. These licenses of occupation were required primarily to enhance the enforcement authority of the town. Effectively, this is a delegation of some crown responsibilities to manage the police and enforce the foreshore. Mainly, this allows the town to install improvements such as docks or wharfs, other park uses in areas that are subject to these licenses of occupation. And it also allows the town to enforce in terms of private property and In doing so, prohibit the installation of other unauthorized improvements in these areas. Some more recent events, there was a bylaw review project initiated in 2022, and emerging out of that is this review of the foreshore and lake zoning bylaw. At that time, there were three objectives that were identified for the review process. One was alignment with more recent provincial regulations. Another was some emerging issues related to the placement of buoys and potentially investigating an option to develop a licensing program for the placement of buoys. And then I understand there are also just some emerging foreshore use challenges. As a result of this review, 3 workshops were held throughout 2023, and I understand that there was some direction provided that there may be an appetite for what was referred to as a lake health assessment at that time. So just a few considerations as part of this bylaw review. The administration does see merit in reducing the number of bylaws that can achieve the same result, in part due to the availability of resources, but also due to issues of coherence and consistency that actively approach the number of bylaws applies. We do see that the maintenance of 2 zoning bylaws can in some cases result in unnecessary duplication, particularly where those regulations originate from the same legislative source. Notably, there are also pressing deadlines due to the implementation of the province's small-scale multi-unit housing. We do see that consolidating these zoning bylaws into one single bylaw could facilitate the timely implementation of those requirements. Also notably, regarding primarily the license of occupation and the lake health assessment, repeal of this bylaw and relocating the regulations contained within it to the zoning bylaw would not preclude any other objectives that council may wish to undertake. And with that in mind, the recommendation provided by staff today is that committee whole recommend to council that the Canvas foreshore and lake zone bylaw be repealed and merged with the draft Canvas zone bylaw.
Thank you very much.
Questions?
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions about this? So would someone like to make one of the recommendations, please? John?
Move option 1.
Thank you very much. Is there a seconder? Councillor King? All in favor? Thank you. Thank you very much, ma'am. So next is Planner Shannon Duong about the small scale multi-use housing implementation extension request. Thank you, Shannon. Thank you.
So I'm just going to run through a little bit of background that I'm sure you all have heard many times at this point, but just to give a bit of context, I think, to the extension request that I'll be speaking to today. So as you recall, on November 30th, 2023, the provincial legislature adopted a suite of amendments to the Local Government Act as it relates to the provision of small-scale multi-unit housing throughout the province. And as a part of these amendments, local governments are now required to approve a zoning bylaw or zoning bylaws where multiple are in effect, which are in compliance with these new requirements. And that deadline is June 30th, 2024. So Bill 44 introduced the definition of a restricted zone into the Local Government Act. And that means the zone which only permits a single family dwelling, duplex, secondary suite, or accessory dwelling. The new provisions under the Local Government Act require that the zoning bylaws be amended to provide for these minimum densities in restricted zones as I mentioned by June 30, 2024. There are differing density requirements throughout the province. Now, all communities are required to allow, at a very minimum, 2 dwelling units per parcel. However, for lands which are serviced by local government water and sewer systems and are designated within a regional growth strategy, within an urban containment boundary, or are in a municipality with a population of greater than 5,000 people, a minimum of 3 to 4 dwelling units are required to be permitted per parcel. And as previously mentioned, in previous presentations to council, the 3 to 4 dwelling unit requirement is seen to apply to most residential zones within the city, and that's the low density residential zones. And these types of dwelling units can be provided in various forms, such as apartment buildings, townhouses, duplexes with suites, as well as single detached dwellings with suites, or an accessory dwelling allowance. Now, the density allowance is predicated on the size of the parcel, where a parcel of 280 square meters or less is required to be permitted 3 dwelling units per minimum, while parcels greater than 280 square meters in area must be permitted 4. So, as is the case with a number of communities throughout the province, this is a bit of a deviation from historic practices, which has led to a bit of a concern from some communities with respect to infrastructure capacity. The Bill 44 amendments had also included transitionary provisions, which includes providing the Minister of Housing the ability and the authority to grant 1 or more extensions for 1 or more reasons, which are delineated under the Local Government Act. Namely, these criteria are that the local government is in the process of upgrading infrastructure that services the area. The infrastructure that services the area is such that compliance by June 30th is likely to increase the risk to health, public safety, or the environment in the area. And that there exists extraordinary circumstances that otherwise prevent compliance in relation to the area. And the local government may request a maximum extension of up to 6.5 years, being to December 30th, 2023. The province has specified that while the deadline to submit an extension is June 1st, 2024, it is recommended that extension applications be submitted 45 days prior to any anticipated board or council hearing for small-scale multi-unit housing related bylaw amendments in order to ensure that compliance zoning is provided for by June 30th if no extension has been granted. And we have identified May 15th as the preferred application deadline. However, understanding that we're quite close to that date, ideally, as soon as possible. So it is recognized when we're considering this extension request that there would be infrastructure related implications as it relates to the added density allowances as a result of the new legislation, particularly as it relates to the town's water system. It is understood that the current water production wells are unable to provide sufficient water to meet current peak hour demands, and from an operational standpoint, permitting increased densities prior to a surface water system being completed may have negative impacts, particularly as it relates to fire protection. The town is anticipated to complete the construction of a new surface water system in 2028. However, it is noted that this may present challenges in the meantime. So when considering existing projects and the potential impact of requesting an extension for small-scale multi-unit housing implementation, it should be noted that if council does decide to request an extension, that there would be implications with respect to the ongoing zoning bylaw update. In particular, it is noted that in February, the committee has provided direction to staff with respect to drafting the various zoning provisions required to ensure compliance with the new small-scale multi-unit housing requirements, and that included the consolidation of various restricted zones into a new small-scale multi-unit housing residential zone. Therefore, if an extension is requested, staff would require further direction from council with respect to the zoning bylaw update, and as a result, it should be noted that the timeline for completion of that project may be extended. So with these considerations in mind, we are seeking council's direction with respect to whether or not to submit an extension request to the province. And it is the administrative recommendation that committee recommends to council that the extension application be submitted to the province. However, the option does remain available to council to not to make that submission. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Councilor Chung?
Thank you. So just to clarify, if we're granted the extension, you noted that there would be implications of the timeline for completion. So would that mean that we would just operate kind of a status quo until the project is done and potentially that timeline might just be longer?
Go ahead, Shannon.
Yes, so because we had already received some quite specific direction as it relates to the drafting of the new zoning provisions, we would probably just come back to a subsequent committee meeting to see if there are any changes that need to be made in the meantime, or if we would just maintain the status quo.
So, there is a recommendation here. Is, would someone like to, go ahead, Councillor
Yeah,
Yang?
thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'll move option one. It's just a quick question. If this was submitted, what's the turnaround time that it's granted or not granted?
Go ahead.
So I believe the province said that they would give us a decision by the June 30th deadline. And I may have misspoke during my presentation. I do believe that in a policy document that they had released, that they would give us 30 days, or no, sorry, 90 days to, you know, get into compliance if that has to be the case, if they turn us down.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So it's been,
One.
and Councillor Paprika is seconding that. Any other questions? Yeah, it seems like the most sensible thing to do for certainly for us. Go ahead, Councillor Chong,
Thank you.
where we go.
For the extension, what extension time period are we asking for? Because there's a maximum of 6.5 years. So are we thinking like 3, 4, 5?
What about 6.5? Can we do that? Can we take the maximum?
Yes, I mean, to some extent, I would probably defer to operations staff to make the call on how much time is actually reasonable to make any upgrades are necessary, but certainly we can request up to that 6.5 year extension.
So rather than just asking for an extension, we can actually pinpoint the number of years that we think we're gonna need. Is that what you were asking? Yeah. Mr. Brownstein, do you have anything to add to that?
Thank you, Your Worship. We discussed this at length with staff, and the 6.5 would be ideal. In order to make the ministry more feasible to our extension, we were actually recommending 5 years.
Okay.
That would give us ample time to hopefully get the service water system in place and online before we need to adjust our zone file.
Thank you very much. Councillor King?
Yeah, thank you, Madam Mayor. So do we have to put this in the recommendation, 5 years, or would that just be kind of a given after?
Would you recommend, Ms. Wong, that we add that number in if we so wished?
I think that's an option. I mean, ultimately, all we need is a resolution from council that supports the extension request in order to submit the application to the province. So there doesn't necessarily need to be a time frame attached to that, but certainly, you know, it is the option to add that to the resolution if you see fit.
What do you think, council?
I think we should add it, and you don't have to come back necessary. I mean, you hear now that we can support the 5 years, it sounds like. But I would think we should put it in the option. That we recommend the 5 years.
And you're agreeing with that as well?
Okay.
So, Mrs. Robinson, did you get that addition and to the motion that's been moved and seconded?
Yes, so what we've added is in that the recommended timeline be 5 years.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any concerns about this? Councillor Chong?
Just a follow up on the extension. If, you know, rainbows, butterflies, everything goes to plan and we're ahead of schedule, let's say 4 years, and we want to opt back into the SMUH, is that a possibility?
Yes, I don't think it would necessarily stop us from implementing zoning in compliance with the new regulations.
Great. Thank you. So we have it moved and seconded that we apply for the request an extension up to 5 years. All in favor? Thank you very much. That's carried. Okay, next is Dan again. Is that the time you're gonna switch back and forth, you guys? Thank you. So this is a Okanagan Basin Water Board draft sewerage facilities assistance grants terms of reference. It's a bit confusing, isn't it? Go ahead, thanks. Yeah.
That's great, thank you. So yeah, Okanagan Basin Water Board Sewage Facility Assistant Grant Program and 1 hectare policy review. So the OPWB grant program review, some letters were sent to Okanagan municipalities in the spring of last year advising that OPWB had been asked to provide clarity on its 1 hectare policy. That it was seeking provincial input and that it would be consulting with local governments as its review of this program progressed. They advised that they welcomed any input from councils, or they also sent others to our regional district in case would be forward on any aspect of the program. So they have now come back with the draft terms of reference. And just for council's benefit, this terms of reference was to facilitate the grant program, which provides funding to local governments for sewage projects. So high level summary of the changes included in this draft terms of reference. They further aligned the 1 hectare policy with provincial grant funding programs. They've introduced a new regulations-based definitions section. They've expanded some funding opportunities to also include liquid waste management plans, and they've also increased the year before which properties would be eligible. So they've increased that to 2007 rather than the previous 1970. They've also introduced new enforcement reporting requirements for applicants to the grant program, and they've also introduced new penalties for non-compliance with the policies that are attached to this grant program. They have requested that any feedback be submitted back to OPWB by May 17th. So with that in mind, we do have some recommendations that council may want to extend to OPWB. So while administration is largely in agreement with the terms of reference, we do have a few recommended revisions. So just a high level summary again. We think that there may be opportunity to clarify the reporting requirements. We do have some concerns related to the definition section, and the recommendation is to remove that definition section. And then we also have a few recommendations for additional subdivision exemptions that we may want to include. So on the reporting requirements, OPWB in the draft terms of reference notes that only 50% of local governments in the valley actually comply currently with the 1 hectare policy. And for this reason, administration strongly supports the enhanced reporting requirements and penalties proposed by OPWB. However, we are recommending that OPWB may want to clarify whether a list of issued permits or adopted bylaws are required of applicants to the grant program to confirm that they are actually in compliance, not just with their existing bylaws, but also with the ad hoc approvals that they are issuing for use applications. On the definition section, we do have this, the main thrust of our concerns is that a terms of reference is not itself intended to be a regulatory document. It's meant to provide policy guidance. And for this reason, we do have some concern that introducing regulatory-based definitions in a non-regulatory document may actually contribute to more ambiguity and confusion rather than less. The main reason for this is that Okanagan local governments have adopted definitions and have attempted to comply with this policy for several years. However, due to the slightly different context in each local jurisdiction, there may be some differences between the exact language that they use in their documents in order to comply with this policy. So The concern is that by introducing very narrowly defined definitions, it may actually result in further compliance rather than more guidance, which I think is. On the list of subdivision exemptions, the main idea with each of these is common categories of subdivision that would not typically result in any new development of buildings or structures, and in many cases where senior levels of government may be involved in subdivision. So the quick list there is road or parkway medications or boundary adjustments where no new parcels are created. To accommodate unintended equipment necessary for utility use, as these are often overseen by senior levels of government. And to accommodate a wildlife management area, a national park or conservation area, as typically these will not allow new structures and are frequently administered by senior levels of government as well. So for that reason, the administrative recommendation is simply to forward these proposed revisions to OWB, but the alternative option is any other combination of recommendations that council wishes to forward. They answer any questions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So as a director at Okanagan Basin Water Board and the chair for 5 years, I have some concerns about this. I certainly understand we've been provided the Sewerage Facilities Assistance Program review from James Litley is included in here. And my biggest concern, I think, is the 1 hectare policy. And the first thing that's mentioned here is that they, have a look at the 1 hectare policy again. And I guess from my point of view, I'm on a septic tank. Because I'm outside the town limits. And so it is my responsibility to make sure that my septic system is in good stead, that I either empty it out or make sure that there's no interference with it. The safety of the groundwater and the water courses, and not updating your system or emptying it as necessary is not regulated. And so what my concern is, if you're going to allow more properties built on septic systems, not joined up to a sewer system, I think, quite frankly, that you're asking for more problems. And that's my concern. I would also point out that in this booklet that we've got on this, the small scale multi-unit housing, that we've got from the government, right here, 7.5 Public Health Act. Local government should only permit secondary suites and not accessory dwelling units on properties under 1 hectare in size that are not serviced by local government sewer system. So that's from the government. That's their recommendation on this report. So while I understand that we need to look at all of these things, the town does get $16,000 a year in grant funding from OBWB, because I believe at this point we're following the rules. We're not one of the 50% that doesn't. And that's from the sewer lift station reconstruction project, which is important to us. And it's important that we look at how we can get grants for these things and following the rules. So and I know this was brought up at the regional district the other day, and there are 20 directors there, 19 of them voted in favor, and I voted against. Oh, not because I don't agree with some of the things that are here, but my concern is the 1 hectare policy is my biggest one. And I just think that we need to be very careful when we're putting in sewer and septic. When you have a sewer system, it's regulated, and people, that there's going to be things that will be updated and done, but on a septic system, you don't have that option. Or maybe we should have, but it's not been enforced. So that's my concerns about it. And that's why not that I don't agree with what's going on, I just want to make sure that those issues are dealt with properly, and certainly Okanagan Basin Water Board are very aware of those issues as well. So, anybody else have anything to say, or, would people like to make a recommendation? Yes, go ahead, Councilor.
Thank you, Edward. What's the lifespan of a septic tank, you know, roughly speaking?
Go ahead, Ben.
Yeah, well, yeah, well, it's on the septic tank.
It should, if it's done properly, my understanding is that it should work in perpetuity. If it's put in properly, there's enough, action in the system, and there's enough microbes and bugs that eat up all this stuff, and it has a good field, it shouldn't have to be adjusted. But unfortunately, if you're gonna get 4 or 5 poor houses on one, I don't think that's gonna happen.
Maybe I could ask, how often does it get cleaned out? Right, everybody has different sizes.
You know, you do it when you think it needs to be cleaned out. There's no regulation. Mine was done quite recently. I want you to know, within the last 6 months. But you know what? There's lots of people that don't bother cleaning it out at all until there's a problem. So I'm okay with sending this back to Okanagan Basin Water Board and having them look at, and it will certainly come up at the next board meeting for sure, but I would just like to make sure that we add the concerns. Is that possible?
Add the concern? Yes. Yes.
Okay, council.
So a motion would need to be made to basically accept the recommendations with the exception of the
1
1
hectare.
hectare, or something like that.
That,
Right,
and we're
and then it
concerned.
has to be adopted and voted upon, but I think.
And it's
Mayor-
right here, in the government document that was just put out. Okay, would that work? Council, what do you think?
Well, your worship, so I think there is no motion on the table, correct?
Yeah.
No, not yet.
So if somebody would need to make a motion and a seconder, or Mayor, if you wanted to make a motion to basically adopt the recommendation with that exclusionary piece or that concern, that's fine as well, but it needs to be a motion on the table to at least get the ball rolling.
Okay.
With the motion. With the conversion, right?
So do you accept the recommendation as printed? Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Bennett. And now can I ask for an addition to that? Is that how it works?
We never had a move on the floor.
We do have one.
We have one on the floor
Pick
now.
one and create a new one.
Yeah,
Sorry, go ahead,
sorry.
please.
So currently we have a motion on the floor, which is, everything that has been identified, through, Mr. Ken. So you can finish that, or we can, if you would like to make a change to it, then both of those that have motioned it have to agree to that. Otherwise, the motion stands. So it's up to council how they would like to proceed with this.
Councillor Quadrica.
Thank you, Worship. Sorry, I thought the motion was to include what was presented with identifying the concerns that were brought up by the mayor.
Okay, so yes, we can do that. So
All right with
we
that?
can.
That's what I thought too.
Okay, so then perfect. So we're gonna move forward with everything that's on here, with the exception of,
1 hectare.
The 1 hectare policy, I think, needs more work on it because partly it's that I think the concerns that I have over non-regulatory septic systems, and the fact that in the government document, it recommends, it's on page 114 of 254 of this the provincial policy manual and site standards.
with the exception of the one.
Can we,
So I think,
okay, go ahead.
with the exception of the 1 hectare requirement. And recommended additional research to ensure it takes into the spirit of the provincial guidelines,
Yes,
something like
that would
that.
be fine. Is that all right? Can I also ask, in here, you've got the home site severance policy. Do you know that when there is home site severance, does it have to be a 1 acre in size? That is the, when there is like an orchard or something and they remove the home site severance, it's mentioned here. And the exemptions, home site severance policy, but I just wondered how large that exemption was. And I don't remember. No, does anybody know? Maybe we need to look it up.
I'm glancing at Shannon.
Oh.
You'll see.
Yeah, it's an ALC thing, I'm sure.
I believe this may not directly answer the question, but the spirit of that exemption was not to penalize local governments for matters that are policy standards of senior levels of government. So the ALC does have a maximum size for home site severance. And in general, those parcels being agriculture are going to be on historic septic systems.
Yes,
Whether that would be somewhat-
so I just wasn't sure how much, what the size of the home site severance was, that's all. Okay, so there's a lot of information in here that we've been provided. I'm fine with this, and so we have it moved and seconded. And I will call all in favor. Thank you very much. All right. And thank you, Emma and Shannon. So we are now going to move to community services quarterly report. Ms. Dennison.
Good morning, Mayor and Council. So I am just going to present the quarterly report for the first quarter of January 1st to March 31st of 2024. So just some high level highlights from the report. This year marks the 50th anniversary of the Adam Fiesta. We had 16 teams and our own U11 team won gold this year. Our public skating numbers are up from 2023. So in 2023, we saw an average of 22 users for our public skating per session. And this year in the same quarter, we saw an average of 55 users per session. At the Sonora Community Center, we're seeing that drop-ins are down in the same time frame from 2023. But our membership check-ins are up by 536 check-ins during the same time, which leads me to conclude that more people are buying memberships to the center as opposed to just paying their benefits, which is great. Also in this quarter, we approved $83,500 in RMI funding to various groups in the community. And the grant evaluation committee approved $53,500 in community grants to various groups in the community as well. Are there any questions?
Can I ask on the capital projects page, which is the last page, it noted that on May 29th, there was going to be a community celebration and some money had been set aside for that, coincide with the provincial ministers caucus. Is that being organized by?
We're in the middle of organizing it right now.
Good. Thank you, because that's only 2 weeks off, so.
Yes.
The other thing that I wanted to ask about, and I did mention it to, Sarah earlier today. We often have at this time of year, a volunteer appreciation luncheon or a breakfast or a barbecue or something like that. And I think last year we did it down at Gyro. It was a pretty hot day, and when we had the certificates to give out, lots of people weren't there, and we understand that. I'm just wondering if that, if there's something planned to honor our volunteers.
Absolutely, because our town would not run without them, 100%. So, yeah, we will be looking at something, if not, at the end of June, then into the fall. And we'll definitely celebrate those individuals.
Great, thank you very much. Go ahead, Councillor Chong.
Thank you. When are we talking about the sand at Jarrow Beach, or is that happened already?
As far as I know, it hasn't happened. It usually happens to coincide with the start of the beach volleyball league. However, I know there are some environmental impacts with that as well. So I think we have to make sure we have the clean sand available. Yeah.
And as a further request or suggestion, because we have a temporary courts set up for City Beach volleyball.
Yeah.
Are we going to be able to top up that lot?
I believe all the sand, all the courts get topped up minus the grass check.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Go ahead.
Just a quick question with regards to the identified electricity and gas deductions. Is that due to part to some of the changes in the equipment the last year?
Yes.
Thank you.
Okay. So we're good. Thank you very much for coming and sitting in for Mr. Davis. Today. He was on holiday. Okay, thank you. Next is the Corporate Services Department report.
Thanks, Mayor and Council. You have our report in front of you, and I'm just gonna highlight a few things. So our freedom of information requests for the first quarter were 11. They've all been completed. We have the following postings have been advertised in the first quarter. Seasonal students, so for community service, corporate services and operational services, and then we have had seasonal bylaw enforcement officers posted, planning technician, director of corporate services, community programmer, community program assistant, and laborer 2. That's just in the first quarter. I'd like to touch upon that the corporate services admin support completed the PADM local government service course. So congratulations to Lauren. The bylaw enforcement officer completed the animal control training. Congratulations. And the bylaw enforcement officers completed EOC essentials training. So congratulations to them. I do want to just touch upon that as we move into the summer. If you could just please keep your pets on a leash or keep them in their yard where they're supposed to be so that we don't have them out running around with the weather getting hot. We don't want them to get into any kind of distress and then or hurt by being out and about. So that's my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mrs. Robinson, and Mrs. Robinson's taken over this job quite recently, and so we appreciate that you are jumping right into it. Councillor King, do you have a question?
Yeah, thank you, Mayor. I see dogs at large has gone down quite a bit to 10, but the pound duties have gone up substantial. So what is pound duties compared to?
So pound duties is when we actually have a dog that we have either captured. And so what happens is we are unable to find a proper location for the dog to go. And we must keep the dog for 72 hours to make sure that the owners are trying to be found and located. And if that doesn't happen, our bylaw enforcement team is very conscientious of trying to get the dog relocated to a shelter or the SPCA. But with those facilities being full and to their max, it takes more time to get them there. or the distance that we may have to go to deliver the dog, could be further. So, that seems to be why we have them longer than we have in the past.
Anything else? Okay, thank you, Mrs. Robinson. We will ask Mr. Zackel to the Financial Services Department.
Thank you, Member McCordle. So the reports before council, just a quick update, small surpluses projected at this point in time. With the general fund having a $408,000 surplus, sewer fund having a $55,000 surplus, and water fund having a $60,000 surplus. Pass it back to council if council's got any questions.
Thank you. Anybody have any questions on Mr. Zackel? We've done a lot of things recently with finance and budgets and so on, so we appreciate the report. It's here for anybody who wants to have a look at it. Sure, go ahead.
You mentioned you got 2 outstanding 60-90 days. It is, what happens to them after 90 days? I'm sorry, what happens to them after 90 days?
You're talking about outstanding accounts receivable.
Yeah, 2.
So with that, we exhaust all means of collection. In some instances, one of these is an ICBC billing that we have to work with ICBC. It always takes a long time to process through. Since that time, it's already been collected. I don't believe any of those 2 that are on there will be going to collections. They will be collected. And so it's just sometimes it does take a little bit longer.
Good. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Zackel. And now the Suez Fire Rescue. Chief Bergmeyer.
Good afternoon, Mayor, through you to rest of council. You have the quarterly report from January 1st to March 31st, 2024 for Suez Fire Rescue's first quarter of 2024. Does Mayor or council have any questions?
So it looks like you've had a few major events this in the first quarter.
Yeah, in the first quarter, we had our hands full. We had a number of structure fires that kept our crews busy, such that our personnel hourly has increased from 200 and some odd hours this first quarter in 2023 to over 800 in the first quarter. And we're just getting started.
Well, we certainly appreciate the fact that not only did you have the fire rescue out there dealing with these, but many other departments in the town of Vesuvius were out to help, plus fire rescue from around the area as well, I'm sure, up the hill and in Oliver. And so we appreciate the fact that everybody works together and you know, does their best, because we have not, like the Main Street fire, it could have been the whole block if you guys hadn't got out there right away and dealt with it.
And that's just the professional service that we deliver on 24 hours a day, 365.
We appreciate it. Can you tell us what happens to that piece of property? It seems to be, it hasn't been cleaned up yet. Is that because of insurance, or can you explain that? There's a couple of other places too that were.
Sometimes, Mayor, it's the number of insurance policies that are involved, the timeliness of the fire engineering that the insurance companies will, it's how deep they dive into the cause and the origin. Sometimes when there's delays for cleanup, it can be a policy issue, or it's just someone trying to figure out how to do it in a very conscientious way. The property on Main Street, for example, you have a building that is sharing structural components that have been compromised due to fire, you know, with mass loss. So some of that may be held up in engineering. somebody needs to sign off that, even though the, one shared wall had been impinged by fire, that it's actually safe to there again be built again, but, definitely higher than my favorite for some of those decisions.
So is it common for these types of things to take several months or sometimes a year? And what happens to the burned materials and things that are in there? Is there any safety issues or any breathing problems that people might have? I just wasn't sure.
Most of the breathing issues came when we were all there on the scene breathing it mostly in, but, yeah, when you start stirring up some of the debris for, removal of the demolition. Properties that were built in the 1920s, 1930s, not knowing completely what, the products are that are involved inside the walls, the ceilings. They may contain asbestos or other cancer-causing materials, so all of those need to be mitigated in a thoughtful manner. So the longer those properties take for remediation, it generally can point fingers to harmful substances being found and being able to have a safe way of removing them.
So are you kept, is the fire department kept appraised of what's happening with that? Or is that once the fire has been dealt with, that's not your concern anymore and it would be operational services or?
Yeah, no, generally it'd be more of the planning, development, bailiwick of business, more so the building inspector. Because it then shifts into more of a demolition permit than it does with anything else, so it's, it fundamentally shifts to another department within the town and the city.
And it would be the same thing for the trailer, that were burned, was it still?
Yeah, and in some cases, that not speaking to that one, it may just be simply, the absence of insurance policies or insurance companies, multiple insurance companies that are involved that are having one stake or they're trying to figure out who's actually paying for what, and it can take some time.
Great, thank you very much. Councillor King?
Okay, thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I want to thank you and all your volunteers for the great job you've done to save our town. And I understand now you have a website, or maybe not the fire department, there's a Fire Smart program now for our town that people could sign up and do a fire smart around their premises?
Yeah, through you, Mayor, to Councillor King, the Fire Smart program, we're starting to roll it out in 2025. That's when we're seeing us being able to kick it off because we have to get the fundamental learnings done to both our prevention officer and the other officers, myself included. But what we've been doing with any requests for site visits or compliance, we've been facilitating that and working with homeowners to actually meet a Fire Smart standard on their properties.
Thank you. It seems to be one of the buzzwords that's around the province right now, particularly because of the fire up at Fort Nelson is really causing everybody to pay attention early, I think earlier than usual, about fire issues. So, thank you very much. Absolutely. Yeah, go ahead.
Well, Mayor, it's funny because the worst fire season that we were supposed to ever have was in 2003. At that time, Fire Smart principles were identified. A large majority of the homes that were nestled in the pines in certain areas of the province, they burned very quickly. And then we discovered that the cladding, the exterior cladding, either the siding on the exterior walls or the roofing on the roofs of the home can contribute to fire loss. So then, 21 years later, we're still finding that that is exactly the same case. Properties are still not being fire smarted to the way that they need to. And that does contribute to a lot of the fire losses across the province. People that have chosen to have decorative cedars, shrubs right up against the building, which then the fire has a way of extending from the yard into the building itself. They've done a fair amount of research after the Fort McMurray with the Buffalo fire. And it wasn't necessarily the forest and the radiant heat that was coming off the fire, it was more of the secondary ignites in and around people's homes and how they chose to decorate their yards that caused numerous homes to be set on fire. And then once one home is set on fire or ignites, densities, because everybody's building larger homes on smaller lots, it has a tendency to extend from home to home to home to home. So fire smart is a buzzword, but it's been around for 21 years. It's just after our worst fire season in 2003, or 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, and 23, and this being the worst drought codes that we've seen for many years, I imagine we're going to see significant fire losses again.
Thank you. Let's hope not, but we certainly understand that there are, that people are thinking more of it. And I think that as new homes are being built, that people are being more aware of what they should use for building materials. And I get that. Do you have something, Councillor Bennett? Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to thank Chief Bormeyer. The other day, I live on Lakeshore Drive and the fire started there and just I could see right on my window. It was like half a block away and I was coming through the vacant lots, which were all really overgrown. And you guys were amazed because those are huge flames and we got there and put out right away because that fire could have taken off and really done a lot of damage. So thank you.
I'll pass that along to the dedicated paid on call volunteers that we have.
Please do. Please do. Okay, thank you, Chief. And we will ask Mr. Brownstein, Operational Services Department Chief, report.
Thank you, Your Worship, members of the committee. The first quarter report from operational services is before you. I'm just going to touch on some of the capital program as part of our report. As shown in the last few pages of the report, the capital program will be delayed a bit due to a late start. So a lot of these projects will not come to fruition until 2025. And some will be designed in 2024 for tender in 2025. So just to let you know that your capital program is being delayed.
Can I ask on the page about landfill stats? It's page 123 and 135, and that's at the bottom. I do know that, and it was brought up at the regional district, which is making me think about it. There are a lot of trees that are being taken out, a lot of grapevines being taken out. And because of the weather incidents and so they're having to remove them. And they can take them up to the landfills. Do you anticipate a larger than usual amount going to the landfill? And do you think there will be the capacity to accept these much larger events? I know that it was that in some areas that there is concern about this.
So generally, Your Worship, we have not seen an increase in landscape materials up to date. Generally, what we find in this region is when they trim major blocks of orchard or vineyard, they burn them on site. So should we see an increase, capacity with the landfill is not an issue, it'll just be stockpiled in an area to allow for grinding at a future date to go into our compost system.
Okay, but nobody can burn now. I mean, as of April 15th, I think it was, there is no longer burning, right? So they have to stockpile them or take them to the landfill.
That is correct.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Councillor King?
Yeah, question. Does the landfill take sod, like I'm talking about taking my grass out to conserve water? So does the landfill take like grass or sod, like put out? You know?
We'd probably take it as general fill, so yes, we probably would accept it, it would just go into the stockpile or cover at a later date.
Okay, sorry.
Thank you. You mentioned that there were delays with a lot of capital projects. What attributed to the majority of delays?
Construction window, so with the budget being passed so late in the year, we anticipated we start capitalizing on these projects now, we're gonna see premium dollar coming back, due to being late in the season. So we're gonna hold off on look at probably fall tendering, fall procurement processes so that we get spring pricing.
And as a follow-up, just off the top of your head, because of these delays in terms of time and dollar amount, what type of impact are we looking at?
Since you're council, I couldn't tell you what the financial impact of this is. If we were to move forward now, you'd probably see about a 20% impact in increase in costs. Most of your contractors have been set up for the year at this point. So us delaying till spring will probably end up, you know, potentially saving 5%. Without costing you 20%.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. No other questions? Thank you, Mr. Brownstein.
Thank you, Richard.
And now we'll move on to planning and development, and that is Mr. Rizzo.
Thank you, your worship. Within the planning development report, a lot of the statistics that have been provided with performance measures seem to be in line with past years, so that's I think positive piece. I think the busy pieces, as you heard today, are the requirements of Bill 44. So our RDOS has been very supportive in assisting us through this very challenging time from a planning professional perspective across the province. And short-term rental, which we're hoping to bring a report to council within a few weeks to provide some updates and attempting to put some type of steps in place or at least considerations for council to implement the decisions that were made by council. So we need a bunch of stuff coming up here in the hopefully next few weeks. Available to answer any questions.
Thank you. I just wanted to point out that where we talk about business licenses, that we have 36 business license applications in the first quarter. Am I assuming, that's on page 131, I'm assuming that those are new business licenses, or are they just renewals?
Your worship, are you referencing the top quarter of the page? There's new business issues licensed in the first quarter, which we have 26 for 2024, 37 for 2023 and 2022.
I was looking up further, so out of 36 business license applications, 26 of them are new.
That's correct.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else have any questions about this? I appreciate having the summary of the residential development projects and projected completion dates on page 132, because we were asking about some the 68, 28, 89th Street and and I know it's going to come up later, I think, in the day. So thank you very much. Anybody have any concerns? Questions? Okay.
One question.
Yeah, go ahead.
What are comfort letters?
Yeah. Something too.
To your worship, these are letters that provide detail on the property. So when a property is selling, they may ask things with regards to building permits, previous fires, all kinds of things. So basically a letter outlining, a very detailed letter outlining pretty much the whole history of that property. It takes a lot of time to go through those.
So there is a cost for that.
Yes.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Okay. Looks like that's the end of that, so I will look for a termination. Thank you. Councillor Poderica, Councillor Chong, all in favor. Thank you very much.